Hello, and welcome to the SE25 cast. Today we discuss the 2-2 draw with Bournemouth, have a rant about substitutions, and make some points dangerously close to criticism of Wilf Zaha. Right, hello, and prepare yourself for
I should just introduce...
Fuck. You are the fucking worst person in the world. Hello, and prepare yourself for quite a disappointed pod today. With me, I have DSOTC.
Good afternoon. Hello, Mrs. Daly. It's your friend, D-Stock.
Jake.
Hi.
Neocas. And our new fella, Mace. Introduce yourself, Mace.
Hello there. That's all I'm going to say. I'll keep quiet for a bit.
So, how about that then? 2-2 draw against Bournemouth. Let's get started with Neocas. What do you think?
Well, I think it was disappointing in the end because we could have easily won it, but Bournemouth had their chances in the first half. Usually they're quite a clinical side, but they didn't really score too many. They were actually quite wasteful, which is surprising of Bournemouth. So I think a draw in the end is sort of a fair result considering.
Right. How about you, Mace?
So I didn't watch the game. I was just following it. But it did seem like, Bournemouth was sort of wasteful. We got lucky not to concede more from them. But at the end of the day, you've got to respect the point, really, haven't you? We're in a relegation battle. It's still a point. We're still not quite in the relegation zone yet. So I'm kind of happy, but also kind of disappointed. 88-minute goal to concede is nasty. And nobody likes to have it done to them, really. We've done it to other people before and celebrated it.
Yeah, I think respect the point's a bit of a controversial term around these parts. How about you, DSOTC?
The respect the point thing triggered me a little bit, and a little bit being a massive, huge amount. Because you're absolutely right before the game. Respect the point. We need to come away with at least a point from all these games. And if we're, for argument's sake, at 2-2 with a few minutes to go, absolutely respect that point, run it to the corner flag, don't lose the game. My problem with, we led that game twice. And not only did we lead that game, at several points during that game, we created so many chances. And they weren't chances that, were falling to Wayne Hennessy or were falling to, Roy Hodgson to come on the pitch in his, rock boots from the 30s. They were chances falling to some of our international superstars, and they just, I don't know if Wilf had the wrong boots on today. Loftus-Cheek in patches was amazing, and then would be like impotent, and then Townsend, a couple of horrible touches that went the wrong way. This is one of the games that was so frustrating. There's an element of when Palace do this against Man United and capitulate like a bunch of muppets, it's Man United. And you kind of know that the sense of occasion is there, the quality of their players, all of that stuff. But today, Bournemouth weren't very good. We in parts were great. And then we just let ourselves down. And I feel sorry for Aaron Wan-Bissaka because when they watch it back, Wan-Bissaka's the one who loses his marker for their second goal. But he was great for the remaining, whatever it was, 99 minutes of that match. He was top draw, except the moment that counted for him. I'll shut up and save it for the rest of the pod.
All right, Neocas, say your piece.
With the whole respect the point thing is that Bournemouth team is a good team. Eddie Howe's no mug, and they have pace, and they're great on the counter-attack. They're great at set pieces. They know how to play. They deserve to be where they are. And one thing is you say we conceded late, but the thing is if you look at their last 6 games, that's what Bournemouth do. They strike late on. That's what they just take advantage of tired players and just score. Obviously, if there were less tired players on the pitch due to substitutions and stuff like that, it might make it less of a threat. But Bournemouth take advantage of those tired players and they score. They have done in their previous 6 games, I think.
Yeah,
At 89 minutes plus. They have a very, very good record recently of
they're right up
scoring
there.
late.
Definitely.
And they've come from behind and they have won more points than I think anyone in the league late on and coming from behind. So they were always going to be a threat. And even when we're 2-1 up, even if we had just gone to the corner flag, we always would have been at threat and at risk of conceding, especially with someone like Defoe on the pitch, because God knows he loves a goal against Palace.
Yeah, it's true. Right. Jake, how about you? Are you disappointed as the rest of us?
Yeah, I think it's just all become a bit too familiar recently, hasn't it? Winning positions, going right at the end, goals that, well, I mean, the first one almost reminds you of the Matic one against United, like just not quite getting out quickly enough. And it was a very good strike. He took it well, but again, I think we shouldn't really be letting him have space to shoot around the box. And the second one is very similar to Harry Kane's, I think, really. It's another corner. It's another late goal. It's another one we really shouldn't be conceding. But I think, to be fair, we probably only got ourselves to blame. Defensively, I don't think we were good enough. And offensively, we should have had 4 or 5 before they even had a chance to score a second. So yeah, I will definitely give you disappointment today.
Yeah, I think that game felt very, very winnable, especially after maybe about 70-ish minutes. We had multiple chances. There was that beautiful one from Patrick Van Aanholt where Wilf slid in through. And after last week, where I reckoned that PVA was our best finisher in the team, he then just completely fucks up a one-on-one, which wasn't the best for my mental state, but at least it wasn't Benteke.
Our records in 1v1s are not good this season at
Terrible.
all.
Terrible.
If we're in a 1v1, it's not a goal.
No,
Basically, at this point.
Sometimes I feel I'd genuinely be interested to find out, actually, whether we have a worse kind of conversion ratio on one-on-ones than we do on, like, headers.
I'm pretty sure we would.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It does feel like it. Every time you see somebody through, they're always gonna muff a touch, or they'll be forced wide by somebody and, not have an angle for it. Every time.
The only one that seems to be able to score one-on-ones is Zaha, and that's every 1 in 10.
And that's worrying because, great as Wilf is, he's not really a clinical finisher. No, not at all. Anyway, speaking of Wilf, let's take a look at some standout players. Who was yours, Nearcast?
Ooh, my standout performer would have to be, and I'm coming back to the big defensive mid, our captain, my captain, Luka Milivojevic, a pinpoint free kick. There's not much better you can kick a free kick than... That was a bit redundant.
Yeah,
But yeah,
there's a better way of saying that sentence, is what I was
This
going to say.
sentence brought to you by the word kick.
There is a better way of saying that, but I don't feel like doing it. But yeah. It's just, he bossed it. He made tackles. He made interceptions. He scored a goal, which was a free kick. The man loves the set piece. And the thing is he had to pretty much boot Van Aanholt off that free kick, because both of them ran up wanting to take it, and he's just like, nope, I'm taking it, and he slots it away.
Mind you, with PVA's effort last week, I wouldn't have been unhappy with him taking it.
I would have been happy with both of them taking it, but considering Luka scored, I have to go with Luka here.
What, both of them, simultaneously, at the same time? Just, one's left-footed, one's right? Double the power.
Double the power, and the keeper has no clue where it's going. It's the best way to take a free kick. But obviously that didn't happen. Lucas stroked it in with his right foot. Begovic didn't get anywhere near it. We go 1-0 up. We then, of course, concede.
Yeah, let's gloss over that. How about you, Jake? Who was your standout player or players?
So to not completely just repeat what Nick has just said, I think Kabay had a good game for me today. He looked good in. I don't think I saw him give the ball away. Won it back a couple of times, broke up play well, slowly started our attacks and built play up for us well. I was impressed with him. I think Tompkins as well had a very good game coming back, covered for us a few Sacco mistakes. And not a best performer, but I will actually give a shout out to Wayne Hennessy. I thought he was all right today. I don't think he could have done too much more on the goals. And I thought he was a bit better from corners. Yeah.
He made a couple good saves, so he did.
Yeah. So yeah, just I'd 7 out of 10 maybe. Good performance from Hennessy.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty well, not just for Hennessy, but also for a keeper. He was, reasonably assured. There was never any of those Hennessy moments where you looked at him and go, "Oh, is he going to drop it?" No, he was all right today. Shame that we still conceded too, because he's done worse and we've conceded fewer in the past.
Yeah.
Villa.
No.
The flashbacks.
That's enough of that. DSOTC, how about you?
I'd struggle to pick a man of the match. I think Wan-Bissaka was excellent until that moment that he wasn't. But really, with the exception of Sacco in the first 10 minutes or maybe 20 minutes before he calmed down and stopped doing Momo Sacco stuff and just started playing normally, from that moment on, the back four and the middle three I thought were excellent. I don't think Luca, MacArthur, Cabaye put a foot wrong. There was a couple of little mistakes from the defence, but I think the way we played today, we didn't press. We did let them come onto us. And I don't think the way we did that really played to our strengths when you look at the speed of Tompkins and Sacco. I thought Pat was good. He finishes that chance. For me, you break the Van Aanholt one-on-one down into two bits. You've got the fact that he's there, the fact that he sees that opportunity and really creates that. Because if we saw Wilf doing that when Benteke was the one holding the ball up,
over him.
Yeah, but Wilf doesn't do that. Wilf divs about, Benteke gets the ball, and invariably those things don't happen. So there's an aspect of Wilf finding the pass and Van Aanholt, but there's an element for me of really all 11 of our players today that played really quite well. We just couldn't finish. We just couldn't finish. We passed nicely. I'd love to see our possession stats. They must be higher than average. Our tackling was good. Our distribution was good. Hennessy was good at coming and claiming the ball, which is quite un-Hennessy.
Very, very rare.
Yeah. And he seemed to know which ones to leave. There was one you could see him come and change his mind. So for me, there wasn't really a standout. I thought it was a good performance that was let down by our finishing.
For possession, we actually had 47%, apparently.
Which, to be fair, is probably higher than average for us.
It's a little strange. Yeah,
47.1%. Come on.
Oh, you've been called out, Nick.
I feel like that might be skewed from the first half as well, because second half, I feel like we really controlled the game a lot better and probably had.
First half was shocking.
Certainly felt like we were a little off the pace at times in the first half. And it was seeing the kind of change between first and second was interesting because Sacco in the first half was really bad. I mean, he kept on doing silly Sacco mistakes and not having the kind of great Sacco play to make up for it.
He doesn't look fit to me.
He doesn't, does he?
He looks more than half a pace off the pace.
He is very off the pace, and you can just tell. Even with the way he's running, he's not running like he usually would, which is like Bambi on ice. But it's just, he doesn't look up to par. And I really hope we haven't just spent a shit ton on a Liverpool player, and he's going to turn out to not be what we paid for again.
I think.
Okay.
Oh no! Later. No,
there's a time and a place, Jake.
No, I think Sacco's issue has mostly been bad luck. He keeps on getting these injuries that put him out for a little while. We bring him back, and he's still looking a little bit under par, and then he gets injured again. I think when he's fit,
the Wickham effect.
Yeah, well, yes, except nowhere near as bad. When Sacco's bad, he's still quite good. But when he's good and when he's fit and when he's firing, he's easily our best centre-back, and it's not even close. But that said, today, James Tompkins was really, really, really good today, I thought. I mean, I've always been a big fan of James Tompkins at the back, but he covered Sacco's mistakes, cleaned up well. Yeah, I thought he was one of our best players, definitely. So,
It's
yes.
definitely, sorry, Nick, it's definitely our strongest partnership. And I think we actually, our back four today looked like our strongest back four.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, definitely.
How about you, Mace? What do you reckon? What was your thoughts on best player of the match? Russ?
So obviously, yeah, as I said, I haven't watched it. I've been reading through the stats and reading the blow by blow. But I think from what I'm reading, Sacco definitely didn't shine. As you guys have been saying, I think maybe injuries and all that is affecting him. Luck is bringing him down. I've just watched the Zaha goal, which I thought was phenomenal. He got lucky with the initial little deflection, but brilliant take from him, which is very unlike Zaha, to be honest. And yeah, I'd probably give it to Wilf. I don't really praise Wilf a lot. I was quite critical of him last season. I thought he didn't put enough of a shift in towards the end of it. But I think, although he had a bit of a rough patch, if he's just got that talent there to be able to suddenly, bam, make something of almost nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect there will be some dissent from the rest of the pod on that. Yes.
I seem to be bringing out all the controversial opinions here. This is good.
All right. Let's give Jake the first word.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I feel like we should have a week when none of us watch the game. We all just read stats and see how we come out. I feel like that could be so interesting. Zaha's frustrated me for a very, very long time, maybe bordering on years now. He's a great talent, and he's been a fantastic servant to the club. He's been loyal. He's progressed well. I remember watching him at sort of 17, 18, and just the way he's changed, adapted his game is great. But there are times when he thinks, I don't know if he thinks he's bigger than the club or what it is, but I just think he always has a go at other players and doesn't see it in himself. The amount of chances that he not necessarily missed shots, but just didn't spot passes, tried to take someone on and fell over. There were just so many things today that he just could have done better, and didn't seem to apologise for it or anything. He just, yeah, frustrated me today. It's just a liability at times. I feel like we can look like we're playing with 10 men when we give it to him and he gives the ball away, like multiple times. Great goal, big deflection, I think.
Massive deflection.
Yeah, like lovely bit of skill to nick it off Pew, was it? Maybe it was coming in for the tackle, and then stuck it in the net. But again, if that flies over the bar, I think we're looking at a 2 out of 10 performance with a goal, maybe a 4.
For me, Zaha is becoming like our Cantona. Yeah, I know. Deflated that you don't have the ability to use such a great metaphor. He is mercurial to the point where his picture's in the dictionary, and when he's on song, he's amazing. He's genuinely, he's genuinely the best player I've seen in the flesh ever. And it's amazing to watch him. He works hard, and I think that's where, to Jake's point, I was ready to drop Zaha several points last season and several points this season, because he's just not sometimes what we need. But
and he tries to one-man army it.
Yeah, and God, how bad would we be without him? But I do think that period when he was injured, and actually we're just trying to play standard football, regulation football, without the mercurial Sasa Churchic emulating Messi kind of thing. That's when we look our best. But actually we look our best when Zaha does it best himself. But today, I don't know if he had the wrong boots on. I don't know if his head wasn't in it. We used to complain a year ago, certainly under Pards, that he got too angry too quickly. And he now seems to be able to control it unless there's something that sets him off. And
Like when he had that penalty claim, he was
Mm.
immediately set off.
yeah, and I don't think he even was looking too much for a penalty. He seemed to get more upset that the guy was trying to not just pick him up, because I think that's a naive thing from the commentator. The guy's giving him a dig. The guy's saying, come on, mate, you know it wasn't. Zaha probably thought it was. But it's the whole, Arsenal fans used to complain about Bentner. He'd miss, and he'd spend more time moaning about
Complaining
the miss.
about the miss.
Yeah,
Than
than
actually
getting on
trying
with
to
it.
sort it out. Yeah.
And this, today, I mean, after Zaha didn't distribute properly, couldn't finish, PVA puts one ball out of touch by a couple of feet, and Zaha's having a seizure about it. And if everyone treated Wilf like that, I mean, I don't know what he'd do. He'd probably go off and, yeah, he'd have a tantrum. But it's this is where I think we're in a situation where we've got a Cantona. We can't take him off. We can't tell him not to. He's bigger than everyone else now because of the goals, the assists. And if he didn't try, if he didn't, well, I mean, the contract for me is a different thing. But because he gives his all, and you see him giving his all, he's running everywhere. He's doing his best. He pissed me off the most when he didn't track that goal the other day. Who did we play and we let a late goal in? It wasn't Bournemouth. It was the one before.
Not Liverpool.
Yes, thank you. Zaha didn't track then. I still get grumpy seeing Loftus-Cheek not track, but Loftus-Cheek comes from Chelsea where number 10s don't track. I get that.
Where nobody tracks, not even the defence at times.
Yeah.
Not this season, anyway.
Yeah.
No, and so I kind of feel that today, I'm sure we're going to talk about James Daly at some point, but there was a time for me where actually we could have progressed having taken the lead without Wilf on the pitch. And I don't think this isn't a unique view that I'm trying to put out there to mark myself out as clever, but it's a view that I'm not hearing very often. And I think it's because the club, as much as anybody, never want to see Wilf coming off.
With Wilf, he does try to one-man army it because Wilf recognises himself that he is the best player here. And he is on his day. But the thing is him trying to one-man army it causes us to lose possession and lose stuff. For his goal, it was a brilliant piece of skill to take the ball back. Because the thing is he did lose the ball. He won it back and then went on to shoot, which was, of course, deflected into the net. And I think if it wasn't deflected, Begovic makes an easy save. The deflection was the reason we scored, not Wilf.
Yeah, if you look at the Bournemouth goal, the one from, is it Musset scored? The guy who receives the ball for Bournemouth before him, and I didn't catch who it was, lays it off to Musset. If you look at a couple of Zaha's opportunities, he has better options on his passes, but he takes on the shot, and we got lucky that it got that deflection and went in against Begovic for the second goal. Because there are 2 or 3 times today where Wilf could have had assists, went for goals, and we got nothing. And we were fortunate to get the one fluke goal.
The issue with Wilf is I think if he was wide this game and we had a dedicated striker in the middle, Wilf would have had a much better game because he would have been able to rip those fullbacks to shreds. But instead, he was up against 2 centre-backs for the entire game. And he can't win long. No matter what people will try to say, Wilf will never win a long ball against a centre-back or a defensive mid. He is A, not tall enough, and B, not willing to jump enough.
Apart from that time, this game where he won a header
Shush, Nick! Do not put me in bad light.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
One.
Hang on, let me ask you this, Nearcast. When he doesn't jump against the defenders, how does that make you feel about Wilf? When he could be winning it, or at least challenging or trying to put them off.
Because the thing is at some point I recognize at the back of Wilf's mind is his fitness. Wilf doesn't want to jump, contest the ball, potentially get an injury, which is something Benteke risks every time he challenges a defender. Yes, Benteke is about twice the size of Nick. Wilf, probably Nick.
He is
probably
also
Nick
twice the size of me, yeah.
Yes, sorry. Twice the size of Wilf, which makes it easier for him to survive that, but Wilf isn't the biggest person, and if he goes into that, he is likely to come off the worst against a big burly centre-back, especially the Bournemouth centre-backs, who are very physical.
How tall is Wilf Neocast?
About
He's-
5'11".
He's 6 foot on his Wikipedia and on the Palace page, which is where
No,
I
I'm
get a
not
little bit. Do you know what I
I'm
mean?
not
I know what you're
talking
saying.
about. I'm not talking about height. I'm talking about just size in general.
He's a pretty slim guy, really, and he's not
Yeah,
big, muscly.
he's very slim. He's not very muscly. If he jumps for that, he's likely to come worse off because he's not got the strength of Benteke. No one's ever going to try and say that. Benteke's built like a brick shithouse.
See, this is where I get, and you're not wrong. I don't think anything you said is wrong. I do think he's better built than we're giving him credit because he's holding off Nathan Ake and people like that with ease.
But that's on the ground, not in the air. In the air, it's an entire different game. If you're in the air, you don't have the placement. And the reason Zaha can hold them off is because his footwork and his placement of his feet is so good that he just has so much placement and torque in his feet that he just cannot be pushed off a ball.
So why is he not? Why is he not jumping and winning fouls? Why is he not putting himself in position where these big burly centre backs?
Well, the thing is you could ask Benteke that, but because Benteke is so big, stuff that would be a foul in his way if he was Wilf gets given against him because he's so big. But the only reason it gets done against him is because he is so big, he can make those jumps. Because if Wilf tries to make those jumps, he's just not winning that. The defender is A, going to jump higher, and B, going to get his head in first because he knows he's stronger. It's just a confidence. It's just a confidence when you're jumping. Wilf cannot be confident trying to win a header with his A, stature, and B, the fact that he's a winger and not a striker, and he hasn't done that his entire career. That's not what he does. He doesn't win long balls. He doesn't make the flick-ons with his head. He uses his feet. That's what he knows how to do. Use his feet, not his fucking head, which in a lot of situations is quite detrimental.
You might be right that it's almost a mental thing with him at times, because obviously we've all seen Will progress over his career. And I remember that time when he was a lot younger and a lot thinner and smaller. And that may have just got into his head back then. It's like, oh, I'm not going to win headers. What's the point in trying? Back when he wasn't, he wasn't the kind of physical specimen he is today. He really grew up and matured and clearly put a lot of work in at the gym. And so he might have just got straight into that kind of idea, and it's hard to get out of, I'm sure. But going back a little bit to the whole the Wilf one-man army thing, it's interesting that we're kind of blaming him for that, which it is his fault. But equally, he's being
found success. He's found success
right.
in the past.
He has found success with it, but moreover, people are letting him do it. The team's letting him do it. Hodgson's letting him do it. It's not just his fault.
The opposition at times is letting him do it. If we look back at the Hull goal last year, where he just dribbled through their defence like they weren't even there and banged it in the top of the net.
But it's not just his fault, really. At the end of the day, if he's not getting told to calm down, think a little, pass it, then he's not going to do it because he has a huge belief in himself.
No reason to change.
Well,
and he does have that belief and confidence in himself. We know that for a fact.
Mm.
But it's just a case of he does try to one-man army it at the wrong times. And it's just, at times it's wasteful. On the wing, you notice it less because on the wing, you're only against a fullback. If he's in the striker position, he's against two centre-backs at all times, maybe a defensive mid. He's against more people when he's central than when he's wide. So we notice when he tries to one-man army it a lot more because he will then lose the ball a lot more.
I think you can see as well still that he's a winger playing as a striker. He if you look at the skills he did to generate his second goal, you're not seeing, you'd never see an Alan Shearer do that. You wouldn't see an Alvaro Morata do that. It's not a typical number 9 attempt at anything. It's hard for me because, like you just said, we're absolutely not privy to what he's being told to do, and the fact that Hodgson and Lewington aren't standing on the touchline berating him every time he's done it implies that he's being allowed, or at least, he's being encouraged, or at least allowed to do it.
Yeah, I think that's right. But we touched a little earlier on James Daly, our young striker who made the bench.
Who D-Stock fancies.
Indeed. D-Stock really has quite an axe to grind about the fact that we didn't use any subs today, as do we all, I'm sure. But I'll let DSOTC start off with a bit of love for James Daly.
This is a guy who so you got Wan-Bissaka been in the academy since Jesus was a boy, and then you've got people like James Daly, who he wanted to be the striker at Brighton. He's played for clubs through Sussex, and he signed for Palace 18 months, 2 years ago, with a Jamie Vardy-esque grit and determination. And he played his way into the under-18s. He's played his way into the under-23s, and he's scored every opportunity that's been put in front of him. And where we've just talked about the Wilf, the Benteke, the movement, you've got a lad who's average height. He's not Peter Crouch. He's jumping for everything. I would, and I don't mean this to be any kind of disrespect. It's supposed to be the most, glowing compliment I can think for him. He reminds me of Glenn Murray. He's not that aggressive. He's not that niggly and annoying. I don't think he's trying to shove his finger up people's bums at corners, but he's absolutely everywhere he needs to be. He's hustling everyone, which is what I look at as we're missing from that number 9 position. You just heard me moaning about Wilf not jumping for headers. James Daly is going to run his little socks off for every moment he's on the pitch. And I'd see him as a Jermaine Defoe. I'd see him as a Glenn Murray. I'd see him as one of those things we're missing. And good on Roy for putting him in the first team squad, because he's earned it. He's not there just through injuries. He's there because he's scoring regularly for the under-23s. So, yeah, great to see James Daly there. And he was super nice to my son when we met him.
Yes, he's apparently very nice fella, but sadly didn't get any minutes, which I'm a little surprised and saddened by. But Jake, what do you reckon about our ongoing lack of subs?
Well, it's obviously a frustration. The amount of times that I think we've already mentioned it today, that we've been caught out by tiredness and the like. It is punishing us week in, week out. I think you look at Rakip and Yasuluyak. I can't remember which one of them is, but I'm sure one of them's been bought in just till the end of the season. Doesn't look like he's going to come on at all. Is that Rakip? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I look at the bench and I think there's not a lot that I actually want to come on, but there is something. Someone said earlier that, someone who's half as talented but at 100% can be more useful than our top quality players at 50% towards the end of the game.
That was me.
Yeah. It's just a frustration, isn't it? You chuck on someone that the opposition manager doesn't know anything about. We barely know anything about them. Surely they can do something. They've been brought in for a reason. And I just feel like if they come on, no one really knows what they can do. Maybe they will do wonders for us. It's not a lot more to say, really. We get 3 subs and we're running our team into the ground when it's not necessarily working. I didn't think today. I didn't think it was working. I think there were things we could have done to sort it out.
How about you, Mace? What do you reckon about the lack of subs?
Okay, so this is a big grievance for me. At the end of the day, you put 11 players on the pitch knowing that they're going to tire, knowing that they're going to slow down, think less, they're going to get sweaty and hot and bothered and all that. And then you've got this bench of players, and the bench today was Soiree, Fossey Mensah, Martin Kelly, Riderwald, Chung Yong Lee, and James Daly, obviously. We've got 3 defenders in that lineup, all of which are proven in the Premier League. Why were none of them put on towards the end of the game when obviously the guys are getting tired? Sacco's made a few mistakes. We've got Riderwald, who has proven himself he's actually quite a good passer of the ball. He can hold up the midfield quite well. He could come on instead of, say, MacArthur, or I think somebody earlier suggested Townsend could have come off. We could have had one striker up front and then a midfield that was stronger, more players in it that could, again, defend. Obviously, Chung Yong Lee, I'm not bothered by. He's pretty useless anyway, so he can shove it. But we've got this amazing, well, not amazing, but we've got this really solid lineup of people we could bring on, and we don't do a single one. We have no subs the entire game. Why is that happening? We should be resting play, or not resting players, bringing players off. They're getting tired, so that then they can. We stand less chance of conceding a goal. It just seems like simple logic to me. I get we've got 9 injuries at the moment, some key midfield players, some key defenders, but again, I'd rather have, somebody said earlier, I'd rather have a slightly worse player at 100% than our best player playing at 5-10%. It just doesn't compute to me why you'd play somebody that's knackered as opposed to somebody with fresh legs.
Can I ask you a question, Mace? Because we've been saying this for weeks and weeks. Do you think Roy has learned his lesson after bringing on Delaney against Spurs? Do you think this is what I've got on the bench isn't good enough and I'm only going to do it in an injury? Or is it stubbornness? Why do you think he's doing this?
Alzheimer's. No.
Wow.
It's not that he's forgetting that they're there, I think, but with bringing on Delaney, he's a 36 going on 37-year-old player that was lower half of the Premier League at his finest moment. Bringing him on against Spurs is sort of you can see how what was I going to say? I can't see how that would scare him, because we've got all these younger, fitter players that could go on now, as opposed to, again, an aging, very slow, surprisingly aggressive defender.
What do you think, Niakas?
Well, I'm going to be devil's advocate for the second week in a row and say that everyone overrates our bench. Lee, we all know, is shit. That's not really contest. We're not bringing on a keeper in Cavalieri. Soiree has barely seen minutes in the under-23s, never mind the fucking Premier League, since being injured. Tofu, we've already talked many times on this podcast about his positioning errors. Can we really be trusting when Bissaka looked good? Martin Kelly, it's Martin Kelly. Do I need to go on? Daly, 18-year-old who has never had a minute in the Premier League and has only recently gotten into the under-21s. And Gyro, who I think isn't as good as everyone says. He's got a good passing range, and yes, has a good attacking mindset. I just don't think defensively he is solid enough. I think even if we had made the sub of Maka for Gyro, it wouldn't have helped in the end. I think it's a case of Roy had a system set in place with the starting 11, and that was the system in place. And it worked for quite a while, up until the 88th minute or 89th, whenever King scored. And I think it was a case of, because usually we would have Benteke back for corners, and I know a lot of people try to understate the work that Benteke does defensively on a corner, but he does actually do very good work in clearing and getting rid of corners.
Yeah.
He does actually do some of his best work this season at clearing set pieces, because we're shite when it comes to corners and set pieces defensively. We all know this. But Benteke has some amazing clearances from there, and he's done work there all season. I think if we had Benteke there at the 88th minute, that would have been cleared and we wouldn't have had a problem. So I think it's a case of we weren't let down today by the team or by the system or by Roy. We were let down again by injuries and not having a striker in place.
Speaking of strikers, one thing we have to consider in this game is the kind of the injuries that we were suffering and how they might have affected our play. Of course, we were missing Christian Benteke, who we discussed at length in the last podcast, and also Surlot is still out as well, which meant that we started with Zaha as a nominal striker. So in the absence of Benteke, how do you think our kind of general fluidity in attack looked, DSOTC?
I liked it. Without going backwards in the pod, I feel that Wilf's one-man team stuff doesn't help when you're playing without a big man, because I think it detracts from the fluidity of that front three. But I think with Townsend, Loftus-Cheek and Zaha, we do look dangerous. I'd rather see Loftus-Cheek at the top of that point. The one thing that stood out for me today, when you compare with Benteke versus without, we were playing against a team who had two centre-backs who hung back a little bit and also were the style that Bournemouth play is almost like a three at the back, but with two, because their wingers or the full-backs, wing-backs push on and stay wide, kind of leaving these two exposed, which is great when it's just against Wilf and he's quick and strong. I think if we'd played against a proper three at the back today, we'd have been destroyed. Because Wilf in that position, he's not beating three. And unless Townsend and Loftus-Cheek are in quite close support, it doesn't offer much. I like it, and I think it's probably our best formation when Benteke's not in. But it definitely has its limitations. I think it's the fairest way of describing it for me.
I think D-Stock sums it up perfectly there. I think it's a case of today wasn't lost or drawn on the fact that we were poor defensively. It was lost today because we didn't have someone who could hold up and who could battle those centre-backs perfectly and win it. Because Benteke early would have won everything today. It's just we didn't have that central person who was strong enough, who was committed enough, and who had the stamina to just battle those centre-backs for the full 90, which Benteke would have, who Sorloth would have. I haven't seen enough of Daly to say if he would have had that, but he could have done. I think the only thing we missed today was an out-and-out striker. I think Zaha wide and a striker in the middle today would have been perfect and we would have had 3 points. But again, we have two strikers injured and one on the bench who is an 18-year-old, because planning and Palace go together like, well, they don't go together.
How about you, Jake? What are your thoughts about how Palace looked in attack today?
Yeah, I think fluid's probably quite a good word. At times, we did look good. Loftus-Cheek seemed to be dropping into almost like a false nine at times, and just sort of playing in behind the striker as if there would have been one there. Obviously, there wasn't. But I thought they sort of moved around quite well. Townsend, I think we all know that his end product isn't particularly great, but he does work very hard and is dangerous at times, definitely. Zaha we've covered. And yeah, again, Loftus-Cheek was good. I feel like Surloth could have really done the job today. This could have been a really good confidence builder for him. I feel like he's been quite close in the last couple of games he had. And I feel like on a day like today, he could have just got his goal or got his assist or whatever it was. Obviously, frustration, it's not his fault. But I don't know why we haven't got enough attackers. Why have we got no fit strikers, out and out strikers, but we sat on Benteke for a while, waiting for Wickham to come back, I guess. We bought in Selhurst as a winger / striker. Sorry, what were you going to say?
We've had the lack of attacking strikers, wingers, etc., for 4, 5, 6,
We've had-
12, 30, too many seasons, basically.
Yeah.
It's just a case of the size of the club that we have. It doesn't promote depth. The money coming in every year for staying in the Premier League helps. It's just we don't have the money or the depth to push that forward. Because if we had depth this season, it would have been much different. Injuries this season have put us in the relegation zone. Under Roy, I think we could have actually had a finish if we didn't have the injuries.
I think the depth thing may be a little overplayed. If you look at who we were up against in Bournemouth,
Perfect. Yep.
up front alone, they have Callum Wilson, they've got Josh King, they've got Jermaine Defoe. These are all three of these strikers who would have started up front for us easily. Did they still have Benik Afobe as well? Or did he? I think he may have left them on loan for Wolves. But either way, last season definitely they had four. They had these three strikers last season with Afobe, and they've got this season they've got three strikers, all of whom are decent Premier League players. And I don't know. I don't think it's an issue of cost. I think we just don't deal well with depth. We've always under promoted its importance, or certainly since we've been back in the Prem we have. And it certainly can't be a case of cost if clubs like Bournemouth are outspending us, or certainly not outspending us necessarily, but have more backup available than we do. And I do worry that this is a kind of institutional thing at Crystal Palace. We've never looked like getting quality depth as a kind of priority to back up our first team, which is, after all, our first 11, all fit and all firing. That is a top half team, I'd say. I think part of the issue is that the kind of state that our youth team is in, and we are always historically very good at promoting from the youth, and we haven't been recently. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is an exception to the norm at the moment. Other teams will be happily bring up players from their youth, give them a chance, use them as supplemental to their squad, and let them be the backup. Whereas we don't seem to trust them for whatever reason. But I think DSOTC wants to say something about that.
I do, and I think for me this is a thing for the off-season conversations, because I think you can go so deep on this, you'd be here for a couple of hours. But we're in 2018. It's only 10 years ago, less than, that we were going bankrupt. When we went bankrupt, or when Simon Jordan put us into administration, that was because he'd run out of money. And before that, the club was running out of money for a seriously long amount of time. This is, you reap what you sow. When nothing was sown, this is what you get. And having a poor academy, Palace, you've only got to look at all the stuff that comes out annually about Palace's catchment area, the players that play for the North London teams who grew up in South London. And really it's because the facilities at Palace weren't good enough and we didn't offer enough. And
we have facilities?
For me, Palace under Steve Parish are doing a lot about it, but this isn't something you can fix overnight. I think you've seen, for me, when you look at players like Noor Hussein and James Daly. So Noor Hussein was brought into Palace after he was let go from Reading and played or brought into the team under Sam Allardyce. And I'd look at James Daly, who was let go from somewhere else, and we've seen an opportunity with James Daly. But yeah, this isn't something that we're going to fix overnight. But to bring it off the academy, I'd look at, it's not long ago we had Dwight Gale, Fraser Campbell, Glenn Murray, and I think Connor Wickham all at the same time. So it's not maybe as bad as we've thought. It's just we've allowed it, or the club has allowed it, to get worse than they ever anticipated it was going to end up, with injuries and other problems.
I agree with D-Stock here in entirety. Our academy has been getting better, but we have exasperated the problem by allowing people to go when we probably shouldn't have. What I'm going to talk about now is our transfers in. It seems the improvements to our scouts are now getting us A, cheaper players, and B, players that can be used as depth and be used. Of course, they haven't been yet in Yak and Rakip, but that's another question entirely. But it seems our scouts are now helping us get the lesser known players, get in people for cheaper, and get in more people in general, which of course will later down the line help our depth. Because of course, what D-Stock brings up about us almost being completely broke and being completely dissolved as a club due to financial issues is a big thing. And where we are now at that point, just 8 years ago, basically, is amazing considering where we are now. 5 years in the Premier League, yes, we're getting a lot of money, but we have to fix and paper over the cracks of that time, and we will feel the effects of that time for years to come. And we're going to have to work on that. And it seems to be getting better under Parish with the better scouting, and the academy seems to be improving. So we can always hope for that.
I think, disappointingly, just a quick point, like we have got to realise that Milivojevic is very far our top goal scorer, and I think that's not good.
Okay, so how about some other pertinent results in the league? We had Newcastle grabbing 3 points away at Leicester. That probably means they're safe, you'd imagine. Brighton drew at home with Huddersfield, and probably a bad result for both teams there. West Brom also drew with Swansea. And next week we have, of course, the big game against Brighton at home. So, what's your prediction? Don't step on the crack.
I think, given that the likelihood of Benteke and or Sorloth coming back is greater than 50%, given that if they don't play, James Daly was let go by he who shall not be named, and Wilf performs, I'm not going to say better, because Wilf performs very well frequently, but I think there's no bigger game this season for Wilf than the Brighton game. I think I'm going to predict a high-scoring Palace win. I think we're going to be winning by 2 or 3 goals.
All right, fair enough. How about Jake?
Good stuff. Winning by 2 or 3 goals would be lovely. I think. Well, I guess Davy Proper misses this match as he got sent off today. So that's going to limit them somewhat. I feel like when I look back to the reverse fixture down at the Amex, we had some really good chances, and I can't remember if it was their goalkeeper making good saves or we just didn't take them. But I do feel like we can beat them. I really hope we can. I think it's a much bigger game for us than it is for them. Obviously, the occasion comes into that a bit, almost being like a derby game. Both teams are automatically up for it. I feel like Glenn Murray will probably score. It just seems it's got to be the way. I think there is a lot riding on one of Sorloth or Benteke being back. I think I'll go for a 2-1 home win.
All right. How about you, Mace?
I'd like to think we're going to win, especially with whatever his face is being sent off today with a red. That means he's out for the game against us, Proper or something.
Yeah,
Proper.
Proper.
Yeah, that's the one. So that's one player out for them. I think they've got a couple injuries at the moment. Is Cuerdo, I think, was injured. I'm not sure if he still is. So I haven't looked into that. But I think hopefully it'll take a bit of sting out of them. Hopefully we should be getting some players back. I know Although hopefully I'd like to see Wan-Bissaka playing. Ward's playing for the under-23s at the moment, so maybe we can see him on the bench, maybe instead of Fossey Mensah. So again, more chance of a sub. Maybe Benteke and Sorloth back would be really good. They're both minor injuries, so they should be back. I'm hoping for sort of a 3-1. I know we'll concede, but hopefully we'll be able to outscore them. So yeah.
How about you, Neocas? What's your prediction?
Oh well, if we have a striker back, we can likely go and win it. However, all I can see in this match is a draw, either a 1-1 or a 0-0. I'm hazarding towards a 1-1 because I think we'll score and they'll score. We're guaranteed to concede. I think we will score. We have that in ourselves, but I think it's just going to be both teams are playing not to lose. So I think both teams will end up taking the draw because a win for them sort of cements them in the league. A win for us makes us very safe. However, draw keeps us both quite safe. And I honestly think both teams will play for the draw. Not early on, but towards the end of the second half, both teams will go, a draw is a fair result, we will accept that. Of course, saying this, it'll probably end 3-1 to Brighton, knowing our luck, with fucking four people injured.
Stop that.
I don't know what to think about this one, personally. I think I will agree that a lot does hinge on whether we get a proper striker back. Because as good as I thought our attack looked today, with a lot of really nice interplay, we will look better with a real striker. Whether that's Benteke or Sorloth, I think doesn't matter too much. But having somebody to play off and around, and more importantly, pushing Zaha and Loftus-Cheek and Townsend back into positions where they're most comfortable will give us a lot of joy, I think. With our midfield three played very well today, I think. So if we stick with them, I think I'd be personally very happy to see MacArthur and Cabaye and Milivojevic playing again, because I think all three of them played well in their own roles. One
better than the other two.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Milivojevic, but we expect more from Luka, really. With how MacArthur's been talked about recently amongst Palace fans.
With Cabaye's age.
And with Cabaye being unable to finish anything more than about 65 minutes most of the time. Although, not like Hodgson's taking him off, so he has to do it either way.
Jensen will hate this part of the pod.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and disagree with, but we can edit it and me being rude over Nick, but
no, go ahead.
I don't think there was a standout out of those three today. I really don't. I thought they were all as useful and as important and as good as each other.
Yeah, in their own ways, certainly.
Yep.
I think obviously Milivojevic had that calming presence. He had the goal and he was there being Luka, but I thought Cabaye worked really hard, got up and down the pitch well. MacArthur, I thought this is his best game in quite a while. He was all over the place in a good way and really, really helped us in all areas, more or less. Still, there we are. So I reckon, I don't know. Let's go for a 2-1 Palace win, because I think we've got 2 goals in us, striker or not. But I reckon we can put 2 past them and hold on for a very, very valuable win. One of the most valuable derby wins we've ever had. So I think that should be everything. A bit of a long pod today. Lots of complaints and arguing, but it was a lot of fun. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you all next week after, let's hope, again, a win over Brighton. Cheers all.
Bye, Mrs. Daly. Thank you, Mrs. Daly.